Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Reviewed, where I review Shurigatwa's first season, and in this case, Shurigatwa's first season finale, Empire of Death. Not to be confused with the other Empire of Death, which I'm pretty sure is a novel. It might also be a Big Finish thing, but Empire of Death is already a reused title in Doctor Who is what I'm trying to say here. So, Doctor Who, Empire of Death, the first season finale of Shurigatwa's Doctor, the second half of the two-parter, the Sutekh two-parter, if you will, where, you know, last episode, Sutekh came back and all that stuff. What do I think of this episode? I like it. It's not one of my favorite season finales. It's probably one of those episodes that I think needs to stand the test of time. We need to revisit this episode several times for several years now and see how it compares to all the other season finales which I've already seen, and I already talked about it on Greatest Show in the Galaxy a bunch of times. But how does this season finale stack up? Am I satisfied? Well, there's some disappointing moments, and there are some amazing moments that will be remembered for the rest of time with this episode. First of all, let me just get this out of the way quickly. I was kind of hoping for a better confrontation between the Doctor and Sutekh in this episode. Now, granted, the major problem here with this is that Sutekh is just too powerful. Sutekh is just so incredibly, unbelievably powerful. I mean, he beat the Doctor. He made the Doctor his puppet from just sitting in a chair in the classic episode. Like, Sutekh, way too powerful of an adversary for the Doctor to take on, so you kind of had to have the Doctor run away from him and try to find a better way to beat him. So that is the problem you kind of run into with villains like Sutekh, and with Russell T now saying that the Doctor's going to now face even more godlike beings and mythological creatures. That is definitely a problem you're going to run into, because, I mean, the Doctor, as much as he's the hero, as much as he always wins, no matter what the odds are, no matter how much the odds are stacked up against him, like, he's still a man. He still has to, or sometimes a woman. He still has to find. He's like kind of like Batman in a way, where he needs to go away, put himself out of the equation, think of a solution, and then come back and win when he's ready. So that's kind of what he did in this episode against Sutekh. Now, I said it in the previous review for the previous episode, Legend of Ruby Sunday, that I was really hoping for a big epic moment with Kate Stewart in this episode. I was really hoping they wouldn't kill her off, which of course they did in like the first 2 minutes of this episode, and that really got me right here. I was in tears when Sutekh got to her, and it's cute that her and the unit people were throwing everything they had against Sutekh and his Harbinger. And I like the little rocket launchers in the Morris Gibson's character's Segway thing. I like that, but yeah, they were all done for. They were goners, and that was a moment there when I legitimately thought that was the end of Kate Stewart. But then obviously you see the sands of Sutekh spread all throughout London, and suddenly Ruby's mom is killed off. Ruby's grandmother is killed off. And as soon as it hit Ruby's mom, I was like, yeah, okay. They're all coming back. Death is meaningless from this episode. The Doctor's going to find a way to stop it. I had it from the beginning, and we've already seen this motif repeated so many different times in Doctor Who right now that I wasn't bothered by it. I wasn't concerned by it. Not to say that I hate it. It's because it's just, you know, we've seen it happen so many times in Doctor Who. It's like, okay, I get ya. The evil bad guy takes over the world, kills all of our favorite characters. How are you going to reverse that? the only way I can compare it is to Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, where like Thanos snapped his finger and all these people started dusting, and suddenly there's an interesting moment in there when you realize that all the Avengers characters who were dusted are the new characters and not the old characters who already have trilogies under their belt. You know? Like, they specifically dusted the characters that have, like, maybe 1 or 2 movies to their credit, and not the old characters, which makes sense to get rid of them. So, I mean, I think as soon as Spider-Man dusted, that was when you realized that, oh yeah, no, they're coming back. They'll come back in the next movie. So it was only just a matter of how they're gonna do that. And it's the same thing with this episode. I mean, the sands of dust, the sands of death continue their reign of death all throughout planet Earth. And then at some point, the Dr. Mel and Ruby are watching the Earth from orbit, and they see the sands sort of cover the entire Earth, and you see all other planets dying out. At that moment, you kind of realize, okay, fine. So it's the same situation with the Master and the Sound of Drums. The Master took over the Earth, ruled it for about a year, and the Doctor reversed it all. So it's only a matter of how he was going to do it. So that's why I wasn't bothered by it, like, because I knew it was coming anyway. As soon as you have death on that grand scale, and with these main characters, you know it's going to be reversed. So there's nothing to be angry about. It's not a cop out. It's not, you know, that all that was meaningless. That was the story. The story wasn't that the characters were killed off. The story was, how do you fix it? I mean, the Doctor literally restarted the entire universe in the Matt Smith era. Like, the entire universe was destroyed, burnt, and the Doctor fixed it. So at one point in this episode, I was just sitting there like, okay, the evil godlike being escaped. He killed all your friends, killed every major planet in the universe. The universe is dead. You're one of the last few people still standing. Nothing you haven't bounced back from before. And that was really how I felt about this entire episode. It's like, it's not how you're going to stop the bad guy from killing people. It's how you're going to reverse the killing. And I think what they did was actually pretty creative. And it's a concept that's been used so many different times in Doctor Who specifically that, you know, I was kind of used to it by now. So how they stopped it. First of all, they went back to the fake holodeck from the previous episode, and somehow they managed to get themselves into the holographic TARDIS that was manufactured because of the memory. And it's the memory TARDIS, the remembered TARDIS from the Tales of the TARDIS series. Okay, full disclosure, I had not watched that series before watching it, mainly because it kind of came out at a very weird time for me personally. No need to really get into any of that right now, but even after it came out and I heard from people saying it, it was like, okay, so it's just the actors reminiscing of classic episodes, and then they just played the serials in their entirety. That was fun, I guess. That was an interesting concept, I felt like. But for the most part, it didn't really entice me to watch it at all. But as soon as they entered the remembered TARDIS, I was like, okay, I gotta find out more about this. So I watched just, you know, the short clips on YouTube with the actors playing the characters, and I loved it. It was very, very charming and lovely and lovable. But the remembered TARDIS, I want it. I need this in my house. I need that entire set with all the props, just to put it somewhere in my house where it doesn't take up too much space, which is hard because I live in an apartment, but that's beside the point. I need all the stuff in the remembered TARDIS. I just love it. I can just spend a whole day in that place looking at all the different references and all the different stuff from previous episodes, and still after a whole day not even scratch the surface of all the things that are in there. The remembered TARDIS is amazing. I love it. I don't think it's gonna come back in the show, except maybe Shooty got was regeneration episode, but for the most part, I don't really see too much of a reason to bring it back. I think it's good where it is with the Tales of the TARDIS series. But yeah, it was a moment. It was fun seeing all the different stuff in there and seeing Melanie with the Sixth Doctor's coat and the Sixth Doctor's stupid polka dot stripe or bow tie or whatever string bow tie that he had, and of course with the Seventh Doctor's question mark vest. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It really hit the nostalgia factor right there. But other than that, it really just it served as the Doctor and Ruby's sanctuary in a way. And this is kind of a problem I've been pointing out throughout this whole season, is that Doctor Who has a budget now. They have the Disney budget. They can do stuff, and I don't think the budget has been used correctly. I mean, case in point, they literally just made a set, which is relatively tiny. They made a set for this spin-off web series. I don't know if it's a web series or if it's in Disney Plus, of just older actors sitting on chairs and talking about stuff. And then they just took that set and made it of about 50 or 60% of the entire episode. Like literally, most of the episode takes place inside that TARDIS, the remembered TARDIS, and not much else. So it kind of feels like, rather than actually going places and stopping things, they just spent most of the time in a set that they were already pre-made for something else. And then don't get me wrong, it was an interesting look, the planet that they landed on, that was dusted, and the Doctor took some spoons. By the way, what the hell is the Doctor's obsession with spoons? It's been that way since the Seventh Doctor. But not much else for this episode. Even the scene where the final battle with Sutek kind of took place was in the unit set that was already there in the previous couple of episodes. So they reused a lot of sets in this season finale, which is kind of disappointing. But, you know, I think they threw enough references in this episode to other stuff that it's passable, I suppose. And I do love, rather than just a straight-up flashback like they did with the Toy Maker, when they needed to explain who Sutek is. I did say in my review for The Giggle that I want to see more of the flashback scenes like we saw with the Toy Maker in The Giggle, to show who this character is and what he means to the Doctor. And they kind of did something else with it. They did something extra where they literally show a clip from Pyramids of Mars on that little monitor that they took from. By the way, the Doctor can just remove the monitor from the TV screen. How does that work? I have no idea. But I mean, it's a sonic screwdriver. It's magic. Now it can do whatever you want. But yeah, so I really did appreciate that scene with Tom Baker and Sarah Jane Smith and that one guy whose brother died in the episode, and then he died as well. And another thing I really did appreciate is that they added modern visual effects to the scene with Sutek from the Pyramids of Mars episode. It's kind of, I had to really focus to notice it, but in that scene from Pyramids of Mars when the Doctor traps Sutek in that time vortex thing inside the sarcophagus, they updated the effects inside the thing. So yeah, I really did appreciate that. I hope that whenever we see flashbacks to previous classic episodes, they're going to do that, because, you know, modernize it, update the effects and whatnot. It was really, really cool to see that. And speaking of which, I mean, the updated Sutek looks incredible, as I already stated in the previous episode, and the explanation of how he got to where he did, I like it and hate it. Well, I wouldn't say I love it and hate it. It's just I like the explanation, but there are some gray areas there. So, okay, so the Sutek just latched onto the TARDIS, and he was there the entire time, from Pyramids of Mars all the way to Legend of Ruby Sunday. So did he also live through the Time War? Was he also around the TARDIS during the Time War? Did he also wrap himself around the TARDIS while the Doctor spent 800 years on Transalore? Um, was he around all the different times the TARDIS basically exploded when the Doctor regenerated inside it? Was he there inside the TARDIS? Speaking of the Master, when the year that never was happened, when the Master basically turned it into a paradox machine. Yeah, when you start to ask yourself these questions, it sort of seems a bit weird. And those are just some random examples that came to my head. I'm pretty sure if I kept on sitting here and naming all these scenarios, I can think of even more stuff. And that's just from the TV show. Not even counting the Big Finish series where the TARDIS was basically MIA. The TARDIS was missing. And the TARDIS was destroyed by Zagreus. It's all, I mean, it's a whole can of worms. Not even a can, just an entire cargo ship full of worms. That's a very terrible analogy, but you get the point when you start to think about it in these terms. So just accept that, yeah, that Sutekh was around in the time vortex this whole time, and that's how he evolved into what you might call his final form, his mega form, to use a Digimon reference here. So yeah, that is his ultimate form as Sutekh. So I guess if the Osirans weren't wiped out, they'd all kind of have evolved into that final form. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah, so I did enjoy the explanation of Sutekh. But again, there's a lot of holes in that explanation. But you're just going to shove them aside because the end result was, what we got. Now, let's talk a little bit about Mel. I said this previously, Mel was never really one of my favorite characters, but I enjoy, it's one of those companions that I enjoy whenever she comes back. I enjoy seeing her pop up again on Big Finish, on comics and other stuff. I enjoy seeing Bonnie Langford as Melanie Bush in this franchise, and I don't think she was used to the best of her abilities in this episode. I mean, let's be real here. She's one of those companions that really got shafted a lot, even in her initial appearance, where she was kind of introduced out of order and didn't really have a proper season to build on that character. And by the time people were already used to her, she left. So it's kind of she's one of those weird gray area characters that never really got their time in the spotlight. So I'm happy that they're shining a spotlight on her now with this era of Doctor Who. But I think they could have done a better with her. I liked that she was resisting Sutekh. I think it would have made her a better character if she was able to actually resist Sutekh more. But then again, it's freaking Sutekh. Even the Doctor couldn't hold back against him. So I think it says something about her and how intelligent she really is. The fact that she even for a second was able to resist Sutekh. Even that was long enough. But of course, I didn't really much appreciate that her entire role in this episode was to be taken over by Sutekh. But hey, I mean, the entire universe was killed off. So who else are you gonna use for that plot point? I will say though, I just love that the Doctor immediately found that out. Well, maybe not immediately, but I mean, from touching her hand and realizing that she was cold, and that's when he put his plan into action. And I do love the plan that they came up with, him and Ruby, basically tying up Sutekh like a dog. Essentially I am going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this, but the Doctor and Ruby basically made Sutekh their bitch. Sorry, that's kind of the only way I can describe it. And I mean, that really just shows you the power of the Doctor. And of course, he needed Ruby to do this, but I mean, the Doctor basically turned Sutekh into a little puppy that he tied around the TARDIS and dragged him through time, all of time itself. And well, again, that just shows you who the Doctor is. Like, okay, God of Death, who killed the entire universe, I'm gonna tie you to my ship and drag you through the time vortex until you disintegrate. How about that? And it's basically like, you know, the Doctor destroying a planet-sized godlike being by shouting at it, or defeating the gods of Ragnarok and just walking away casually as the psychic circus blew up. That's the Doctor. I mean, that's how kind of he defeated the Toymaker the first time around. He was standing inside his TARDIS, yelling out a command, and just waited patiently for the Toymaker to just blow himself up. So yeah, that is the Doctor, and that is why we love him so much. And oh my goodness, Gabriel Wolf nailed this performance. Now, my favorite performance of Sutek was the original, the calm, cool, and collected, you know, just sitting on a chair with a very weak and calm voice, not being too impressive or intimidating until he really needs to. And I really did enjoy the voice he gave to the Beast in the Ood two-parter, which, you know, it was on a completely different level. And the voice he gave Sutek in this episode is kind of an interesting middle ground between those two, which is great. I love that this is what we got, because, I mean, it ain't the same Sutek from 1975. Like he said, he evolved. He's huge now. He's a monstrous beast. So naturally, he would have a voice like that. Kind of wish Sutek would have put more of a fight, but again, it is Sutek. He basically destroyed the entire universe. I don't know, honestly don't know what I'm expecting. Now, as for the reveal of Ruby's mom, I am understandably a little underwhelmed by it. I would even go so far as to say disappointed. But you know what? It doesn't matter. That's the whole point of the reveal. That this whole time, she was just an ordinary woman. There's nothing too special about her. It's just, and it's a very meta thing that the Doctor says. It's like, we made her important because we were asking ourselves who she is. And that's kind of a conscious thing he was saying to the fans. No, it's kind of like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Rey's parents from The Last Jedi. It's like, they're not important. The fandom made them important. And that's exactly what happened with Ruby's parents in this. Like, they're not really that important. We just assumed they're important, but no, they're just regular average people. Still doesn't explain the snow thing. Doesn't really explain the mystery of Ruby Sunday. So much like with Rey's parents, I'm assuming there's a little more to this than what we saw in the episode. But it was really a genuine heartwarming moment when Ruby eventually got to find her mom and hug her, and that moment of the Doctor just staring at that and almost casually walking away. There was a little moment in there where in my mind I was saying, yeah, we're gonna see the Doctor's parents in this series at some point. I mean, that's at least how I felt of how Russell T was setting this all up. It's like the Doctor saw Ruby meeting her parents again, and he had that I wish I had that look on his face for a moment. So I am 80% sure we're going to see the Doctor's parents at some point in this series. Will I like it? Only time will tell, I suppose. But overall, I think I understand why Ruby had to leave. And I kind of wish she stuck around more, because I don't see a reason why the Doctor can't come back and visit her, and she can come back and be a companion again. I mean, remember, there was this big uproar in social media about how there's already a new companion cast, and that they were talking about how Millie Gibson was leaving the show. And I was like, guys, find your center. Remember when Donna Noble was a companion for one episode? And look where she is now. So I think it's going to be the same thing with Ruby. I think she's definitely going to come back, just like Martha did in the David Tennant era, and I don't really think there's any reason to assume that that's the last we'll ever see of Ruby. I mean, they even said it in the episode, and maybe we'll see the Doctor go back and meet Susan. I mean, Carol Ann Ford is still around. She can definitely make an episode or two. I don't know. But overall, these are my thoughts on this episode. It was an okay episode. It was good. I enjoyed it. There's definitely some highlight moments that I think are gonna now enter the pantheon of great Doctor Who moments, greatest of all time moments. But then again, there are some, you know, obvious flaws to this episode that I think we're going to need to address, and will be remembered. Will be a detriment to this episode for years to come. But that's my thoughts on this episode. Let me know what you thought about this episode, and I will see you. I guess next time I'm back to Doctor Who Revisited, the classic episodes, and the next time I'll see you for Doctor Who Reviewed will most likely be around Christmas time, when the next episode will air. So thank you for watching if you have, and see you next time, I suppose. Goodbye. Hi there. Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.